morning. Today is Thursday, October 30th, 2025. My name is Terry Morgan. We are here to practice Wudang Qigong. This week, we are still talking about the idea of perspective, and together with that, the concept of changing perspective based on experience. I missed 2 classes last week. I'm going to make them up. I'm going to be here tomorrow and Saturday. Um, and I'll probably teach 2 classes instead of just one. Maybe. Um, part of the reason for that, and it's part of what I want to talk about today. Practice. Practice. In putting together my series of books that I've written. Martial arts themes, there's all kinds of traditional Chinese martial arts philosophy and principles in it. I wrote it. My perspective. That's what we're talking about, right? As I was going through and doing some edits that I had not planned to do, but I did. I made notes. I made lots and lots of notes to track my progress, to check and make sure that I was working on, do I have the same font sizes on the spine of the book? Well, I didn't. I published the books at different times, so I had done one thing at one time. I did something slightly different at a different time. Now they're all going to be consistent. Isn't that nice? Well, it's the work that I did. That was the goal. That was my goal. I talk a lot about goals in practice. My goal was that the book should be consistent. That if I'm looking at them side by side, there shouldn't be any huge differences. And huge to me is a couple of point sizes on the font, so it's a big difference. There should be consistency. It should be consistent within itself. Maybe compared to somebody else's books, it's different, but that's okay. Compared to the other books that I'm working on, should be at least similar. That idea. Here's my goal. This is what I'm going for. I know what that looks like. I know what that goal looks like. I've published other things in the past. I've been a judge for international competitions for publishing. I know what that looks like. I know what it should look like. If I did not have that experience, I might have learned it some other way. That particular experience is not exclusive, right? There's other ways to learn. Or I might not know. I might not know. We see a lot of that. The effort's good, but not quite. Maybe the person doesn't know. That concept, that entire concept, that I have this experience, it gives me this perspective, and when I look at something, I have some context to put it in, is relevant to pretty much everything we do. We bring that perspective with us. It comes along. Whether we want it to or not, it's going to come with us. And that makes a huge difference in practice, in how we approach our practice, and what we do in practice. The last thing I'm going to talk about in connection with the books is very, very, very relevant to the notion of practice. You could learn something today. We're going to do some exercise in a minute where you would learn something. That'd be great. It would. That's my goal. That people are listening, watching, and you learn something. But if you don't practice, it won't be any more than a passing acquaintance. You won't become good friends with your practice. You won't. That idea of becoming good friends with your practice. For the last 3 weeks, solid. I didn't take a break unless I absolutely had to. I have been working on editing and revising, not too much, a set of 8 books. I decided that it needed to be done. I was going to do it. That's why I wasn't here for 2 classes last week. I was editing. And I get up in the morning, get my coffee, take a few minutes to think about what I'm doing during the day, what I plan to do. And then sit down and edit. Where am I at? I write it down. Where am I at? What am I doing? What am I working on? What am I paying attention to? What am I paying attention to? Am I paying attention to the details of the language that I have to read slowly? And I have to look at each and every word, each and every punctuation mark, the context for whatever else is on that page, and consider what I'm trying to do with the story. If I'm looking at the page layout for print, I shouldn't be looking at any of that. I should be looking at the fonts and the formatting, and do I have the right lines at the top? Do I have is this set up right? Is this right? I'm looking at something different. I'm paying attention to something different. Both are required. It's not an either or. When we practice Qigong, we practice Tai Chi, we practice any of the martial arts, any of them, we pay attention to the principles that belong to that art. We pay attention to the movements that belong to that art. I should not be doing Wudang Qigong and calling it something from Wudang. It's not. It's obvious. It would be really obvious to somebody who knows. Why? Why would I do that? I particularly wouldn't. That's my perspective. I would not want to do that. That's Shaolin. Absolutely. No, that's from Wudang. That one, I'm not sure. I know the lineage, but the particulars for exactly how it was created, nope. That perspective. How much of the history do I know? I'm still learning, but how much do I know? What informs whatever I've learned? Well, I've studied a lot. I went to college intentionally to work on English skills. I wanted to write. And so I did. I worked on languages, theater, dance, philosophy. I spent some time in the hard sciences, studied physiology, I studied dance. And all of that informed and created a foundation for what I went on to learn. My perspective. My perspective. I've studied dance and movement arts. I've studied theater. I've studied languages. I've looked at cultures and things. So Tai Chi, well, it's got some elements that are sort of like dance. It's got some philosophy and stuff behind it. Yeah, there's some cultural elements because, well, it came from China. We all agreed that it pretty much came from China. Nobody disputes that. It's Tai Chi. And that perspective that I started with helped me to understand more about what I was doing. It gave me the leverage to keep going. That's the point. If I hadn't kept going, I'd stopped after 2 classes, maybe 3. I wouldn't be here today. I absolutely wouldn't be here today talking about any of this. Getting up every day for like the last 3 weeks, sitting down, working on edits, going through checklists, trying to make sure that there was nothing that I could find. I was looking. That was a problem. I tried. I just could still be a couple of things, but I really did try to make sure that everything that I looked at, and I looked carefully, that effort is very much the same as the effort that I put into my practice. I look carefully. I pay attention. Some days I pay attention to some things. Some days I pay attention to something else. Right? Today we're going to pay attention to the idea of relaxing. This is not sit down in the chair and slump or take your shoes off and relax. This is the idea in Tai Chi and in the internal arts, particularly called Fasun. Song is a Chinese word. It doesn't translate very well. It means relaxed, alert, energetic, but not tense, not overly done. Nothing is overly done, nothing is underdone. It's just that balance in everything that you do. It's loose, it's easy, and you feel it more than see it, but there is an element of being able to see it. If my movements are tense and stiff, you will see that tension. If my movements are quiet and relaxed, you will feel that as well. You'll feel it if you're in the room with me. Whether you can feel it through the video, I don't think so. But if you can, good luck with that. Our feet about shoulder width apart. Wiggle the fingers, wiggle the toes. Pull up through the crown of the head. Hands circle to the front. Big stretch. Pull up through the center. And extend outward. Pay attention to the large heavenly circle. Up the back and down the front. One more. And hands return to your sides. Perspective. My movement seems light, easy, relaxed, comfortable. I'm going to do this one time, and I'm going to change my timing so it's wrong. And I'm going to put tension in my shoulders and in my hips so that when I start over, it's going to seem awkward. And I'm going to face this way. You know, yes. Okay. First one I did. Lots of tension in my shoulders, my upper back, lots of tension through my hips. Ick. My movements were jerky. There was it not connected. My arms were disconnected from my shoulders. It was awful. I was trying to make it awful. Okay, it was awful. Second one, nice and smooth, big circle. Everything's all connected. It seems to be one movement, not move your hands, move your knees, move your this, move that. Right? All of that connection, all of that effort to keep the connection matters to what we're doing in everything else that we're doing. If my body is not connected within itself, I can't connect internally with the internal energies. It's not going to happen. I'm not going to be able to relax because I'm fiddling with this movement, that movement. I got to do this, got to do that, blah, blah, blah. No, that perspective that it's one movement, not multiple, that it's smooth and continuous, not abrupt and disjointed. That's what it should be. How do you know that? Ask anybody who has ever practiced Tai Chi ever. It's in the canon. It's not just me. All right, now, my particulars, if you're my student, and my particulars for how you're going to move and how you should move are going to be the same as what I'm teaching in this class. Somebody else can teach different. That's the point of having different teachers, right? You can teach the same thing and teach it differently. Different people will have different levels of understanding based on which teacher is leading the class. Perspective. My perspective is different than this other person's perspective. Someone who's learning may find a better connection, a better way of understanding the art through this other person. This person speaks fluent French. I don't. I speak a little bit. Just a little. C'est pas un peu? That little bit, right? In my perspective, I started studying through sports, physical activity, right? Sports, dance, Tai Chi. That led me to visit China, where I learned more Tai Chi, Xingyi, Bagua, sword, a whole bunch of other things that informs my perspective. That experience comes together with everything that I do. I've lived it. It's part of who I am. Having that experience, not having that experience. Someone who's lived in China all their life does not have the experience of being a tourist in China. Not really. No. someone who has never visited Kansas, never been there, doesn't have the perspective of someone who's lived in Western Kansas for their entire life. It's different. Everybody has some differences in how they look at whatever they're looking at, that perspective. When we think about how we would look at someone who is practicing Qigong, what should we be looking for? This person says, I am practicing Qigong. Hey, this is great. There is a Qigong set. This is the practice. That's it. We can have this one too. Hold the ball. We do that in set 8 in Wudang Qigong as part of our practice. We have this movement, holding the ball, in Yang style Tai Chi. It's also in Wudang style Tai Chi. It's a common move, one hand over the other. Connect both Lao Gong in the center of the palm. Right? If you're practicing hold the ball here, I practiced here. Horse stance. Stay there. No, you don't get to move. You can sink lower. Right? Hold the ball. Arms should stay level and in good position, good relationship to each other, and good relationship to the body. The elbows are down, the shoulders are down. Hands are level. They're connected. They are, really. Okay? The upper body is relaxed and open. The lower back has to stay open because the hips need to drop down and support pull. The hips do two things. Through the back, the hips drop down, so the lower back is open, and we pull up through the center. The hui yin, pull up through the center to support the torso. So we can sink lower. Right? The legs don't have to do as much work if we're using them correctly. Right? They don't. They're working. Oh, yes, they're working. But they don't have to do as much work. Because if I'm leaning forward, my knees will hurt. I won't be able to hold this position. I won't. It won't happen. If I'm well aligned and my legs, the upper part of my legs, are holding well, so press in, press out, press up, extend outward, all of those things are going on. my calves, the lower part of my leg and the back, right, are telling me that I was just telling me that my right leg was telling me that I'm off balance a little bit, need to shift to the center. I did. Relax. All right. That exercise, Qigong, being able to do it, practice, it's not a one-time thing. I may show something one time, two times. I've shown a lot of things multiples of times. It's not the same as actually doing it every day for a number of years. When we started today, I'm going to do one more set, just because, and then I'm going to talk about the notes that I had. Feet about shoulder width apart. Begin at extreme emptiness. Ladies, right hand on the outside. Gentlemen, left hand on the outside. And breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Don't pay attention to anything else. Just the breath. One more time. Breathe in. Hands separate, down along both sides. Breathe out. Pull up through the crown of the head. Raise the heels and lower. Stay there. Breathe in. Breathe out. All right. I was talking about practice, and I realized that we needed to do one more set, and that's what we just did. That ability. Say, all right, I'm going to practice now. Everything else stops. I'm going to practice now. Comes from practice. Do more practice. Say, okay, I'm going to practice now. And all right, all the distractions, all the stuff that just needs to go away. I'm going to go practice now. Well, but I need not right now, right? You gain the ability to let go of those distractions by trying to let go of those distractions. How do you do that? You say, all right, I'm going to practice for 30 minutes. I'll do that when I'm done. I don't need to think about it right now. I can wait. It'll wait. It'll be there waiting for me. It will. If you can develop that skill, that's what else I was doing. Here's my practice. That will give you the ability to develop your practice. What you do in practice is what you will develop the skill to do. Now, it sounds obvious. Many years ago, I'm use this notes that I was talking about in just a second here. Many years ago, I was just learning, and my teacher, Kwon Wei-Lun, had given some sets, and I was having trouble with the physical movements, and I talked to him about it. I said, well, I've been practicing these sit-ups that I've learned from dance, and he said, well, show me a little bit. I showed him a little bit. He's like, yeah, this is pretty good. I said, well, is this going to help my Tai Chi? He said, no. Well, what's going to help my Tai Chi? Practice. If I practice the sit-ups, I'm going to get better at doing those sit-ups. I am. It will make my body stronger. It will. And it will give me a different level of ability to move compared with if I don't strengthen the core, if I don't build up that particular type of strength, I go with weights. No. And that's something, there are people that do it and they do it really well and they look great. They're good body structure. There's health benefits and all kinds of stuff. It's not me. It's not something I'm going to do. You want to get better at Tai Chi? Hmm? Practice Tai Chi. You want to get better? That's the idea. Is that if you have this is the goal oriented idea of what am I doing? What do I want to accomplish? Where am I going with this? I'm going to practice. I want to learn Qigong. I want to learn Tai Chi. I want to learn traditional Chinese martial arts. That's what I want to learn. How do I start? Where do I start? What do I do? That perspective. I want to learn. Not sure how, but I want to learn. And I take the knowledge and experience that I had that isn't particularly for that, but I can use it. And I start applying that. Ooh, well, this is sort of like dance. It's not dance, but it's sort of like dance. So I can use that training to inform what I'm doing so that it isn't going to take me as long to learn. I can use that training to inform what I'm doing so that as I'm moving, I can pay more attention to the physical movements, how I do the movements. That checklist idea, right? That checklist. This was, I don't even see the checklist. There's a bunch of check marks. Literally, that's all it's on there. It's headings and a bunch of check marks. As I went through each of the books, for this one particular thing, this was just one piece of it. I have pages of things that I looked at. As I went through, I said, this book, these things, have I checked these things? Are they okay? If they're not, fix them, right? Move on to the next one. We do exactly that. Exactly that in our practice. Feet about shoulder width apart. I can't find that position. Where's my, is my feet about shoulder width apart? No. Yeah, that's all right. Yeah. Those are not my shoulders. That's not my shoulders. If I know the basic body position, I can learn for myself how to find it. I don't need somebody else to tell me. I can look in the mirror and I can see it. Pull up through the crown of the head, right? Pull through the crown of the head. That helps the neck spine straighten and relax. Chin's not down. It's not up. It's not out. It's not too far in. It's nicely balanced. The head, right? Physical body, nicely balanced. Shoulders are down and relaxed. I'm not up here, right? No. Yeah, down here. Yeah, right? Shoulders are down and relaxed. Pull down through the upper back so that the shoulders open more. And extend the arms out just a little bit. That also helps to open the shoulders. Pull up through the center so that your lower abdomen is connected much more tightly to your upper abdomen. That pulls the hips up so that your legs can relax out of the hip. So your torso is holding your torso and your legs only have to support your legs. Feet well placed, well balanced. The weight is just slightly toward the toes. Okay, I'm not back on my heels and I'm not forward on my toes. I'm in the middle. Toes grip just a little bit. The heel sinks. The arch pulls up. Relax. That whole litany. Right here. I've practiced it over and over and over and over and over again so many times that I don't have to go through each and every movement each time. I can look at it and say, this stand straight, right? All of the elements come into play. If I don't know what they are, I can't bring them in. What do I need to do? I just did a breakdown on about half of it. There's more. I was talking about the physical body. So this much, we do this, we learn these things, and then we apply that knowledge so that instead of thinking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I just think all of it together. Okay. That skill is developed through practice, the same as we develop any other skill. Writing down what you do, I highly recommend writing down what you do. That's why I brought that notes out today. Here's my checklist. Here's what I'm doing. I'm practicing this week. What am I practicing? Practice experience, right? That connection between how we look at practice and the experience that we have. That's what we're working on. We're going to be doing that tomorrow and Saturday as well. That is fundamental. That idea that we have perspective, that we have experience, what experience we have, what perspective we have, helps to inform what we're doing or not. That is essential. It's foundation to everything that we practice. If we don't understand where the art comes from, how can we understand why we're doing something a particular way? I can talk at length about the history of ballet because Miss Tanya insisted that we study the history. It's important. I hope that this has been helpful, informative. It goes with every kind of practice that we do, whether it's mine, somebody else's, whoever is teaching, whatever they're teaching, their perspective and their experience informs what they're doing. Your perspective, your experience informs what you're doing, whether you're the teacher, whether you're the student, different perspective, right? Paying attention to those distinctions will give you a greater level of understanding in practice and hopefully a greater curiosity to learn more about all of the different kinds of things that we're paying attention to and studying in traditional Chinese martial arts. Thank you for being here today. I appreciate it.